It's Thursday, April 29th, 2021. And today we're talking about Canada welcomes 3 new unicorns, Alphawave, Thinkific, and Clio. VERTU Capital networks its way into an investment in Dejero. Vista Equity invests 300 million Canadian in Vena. And this week in early stage funding, Heirlume and ReelData. Let's get started. First up, Canada welcomes 3 new unicorns, Alphawave, Thinkific, and Clio. Alex, let's do each unicorn one at a time. Tell us about Alphawave.
So Alphawave is the one probably no one's heard of. They're only 4 years old. They're Toronto-based. They make what's called semiconductor and intellectual properties core. So it's basically they design IP for semiconductors and make them faster and cheaper to run and less energy intensive to run. Toronto-based, can go deep into it. They've got 75 employees, never raised money, 14 customers, and they just raised. The news is they're going public on the London Stock Exchange, raising with a 500 million commit from basically Janus Henderson and BlackRock to buy into them, and they're going to be valued at 4.5 billion, or valued at 4.5 billion US when they went public.
Amazing. So why the London Stock Exchange, Alex?
That's where their ecosystem is. That's where semiconductor. Well, first of all, that's where ARM, which is like the first semiconductor company to be just designs, went public, and there's a big semiconductor community there. So they felt it would be better to be closer to their community.
And why now? They've never raised money. What's changed today that they're going to take on some investment and float to the public market?
Well, I guess revenues. 2020 revenues was 44 million US, which was up 4 times from 2019. First quarter 2021 revenues or bookings were 82.2 million, which was up 4 times from the previous quarter or year over year. So really rapid growth, really high margins, 95% gross margin, 54% operating margin. And the market loves companies with these type of numbers. And so why not go public?
And who are the customers? Who are the customers here, Alex?
Customers are chip manufacturers. It'd be like someone that's making a new phone, making a new device, and needs to design a chip specifically for that device.
Got it.
And they don't disclose who they are. There's 14 customers, and it's not clear who they are.
14 customers, 4.5 billion valuation. And you were talking about the founders and their equity shares. What do you know there, Alex?
Well, these are serial entrepreneurs, all in the mid-40s, previously built and sold 2 semiconductor companies. So they notice this, they notice marketplace, they know the ecosystem, bootstrap basically. And so each of them own 21% of the firm. So I guess they're each worth about $800 million US as of the time they went public.
Wow. Imagine when they add their 15th customer. All right. So we had Thinkific's co-founder and CEO Greg Smith at TechTO together last July, and we spoke about his big raise on Quick Takes last month. What's happened since then, Alex?
Well, they're planning, so won't go too much on Thinkific, because if you go back to our old episodes, you can hear everything about them. The quick update here is they were planning to go public. They went public, and their shares were extremely oversubscribed, and they hit $1 billion market cap. So they were a unicorn status when they went live. The only other update is their first quarter numbers are 8.1 million USD revenue. So just give you some context, last year, the entire year was 21 million. So if they keep on that pace, that's 32. They're growing about 80-90% a year.
Wow. Well, I'm sure we'll see a how to go public course soon on Thinkific, which would be great. And then Clio's co-founder and CEO Jack Newton presented at TechTO in Vancouver in 2016 about running a great beta program. Feels like they're out of beta now, right?
Yeah, they've continuously built a big, massive business in Vancouver. They're still private. What's interesting is I think I feel like 24 months ago they must have hit a bit of an air pocket, because there was rumors that they'd stalled out. But since then they've been hitting it out of the park. For people that don't know Clio, they are basically the operating system for legal, cloud-based operating system for legal firms. They have 150,000 customers in 100 plus countries. 600 employees, adding 250 more. And now with this raise, they've raised 286 million, and they're worth over $1 billion. The money's coming from some credible investors, including Omer's Growth Equity Fund, and from T. Rowe Price, which is a mutual fund company typically. So that means that indicates that Clio is probably going to try to go public in the next 24 months.
Amazing. That's another great deal for OMERS. This is the first time that OMERS is participating with Clio.
So for me, it looks like it's OMERS Growth Fund, so it's not their venture capital fund. I was trying to dig up and find a bit more about that. I think the last round was also another private equity firm. So it's interesting because I thought usually when you see private equity firm invest, you don't see growth firms invest after. So it's an interesting path they've chosen to take.
So we've got a trio of unicorns this week. Why is this interesting to the TechTO community?
Well, first of all, timing can be everything. I think Thinkific and Clio have operated in industries typically not liked by VCs, but have had significant tailwinds because of COVID, right? Everyone's going online for education. You read the presses by Jack Clio saying how a lot of the stalling firms have decided to basically move to basically automate and use software for the businesses. So timing there is perfect. COVID actually helped these two companies. And then from a valuation or market perspective, all three of these businesses have predictable revenues. So, you can measure it out for a year because they're SaaS businesses or like our bookings, like with Alphawave. They all have high gross margins. And the markets are applying really high values for those type of companies now, where you see growth, you can predict the growth, you can get good margins. So if you have a business model like this, go right now. Like after you listen to us, you should pick up the phone or an email or Zoom and talk to your local financier to get some cash.
Yeah. Talk to us first though, right, Alex?
Yeah. Talk to us first. And I think the other thing here is, like, last week we talked about the Waterloo and Calgary ecosystems. And sort of like Waterloo had, Vancouver is a similar position to where Waterloo was before these two financings. I think if you go back 5-6 years ago, Vancouver had a bunch of the next unicorns, or narwhals, and they sort of all stalled. Hootsuite, BuildDirect, Simex, and a few others, and then two more unicorns, and all of a sudden, I think Vancouver's produced like 5 or 6 unicorns in the last 6 to 12 months. So Vancouver sort of had, was considered at one point the leading tech ecosystem in Canada. Sort of lost its mojo. Now seems to be quietly making a huge comeback with quite a few valuable companies.
Amazing. And Alex, if you want to keep up to date on the people behind these companies like Alphawave, Thinkific, and Clio, from Vancouver to Calgary, Toronto, Montreal, you need to subscribe to the TechTO newsletter. What can subscribers expect in tomorrow's edition, Alex?
Well, tomorrow's edition, Friday, focuses on what's happening in the Canadian tech ecosystem. So you may have a breakdown of quick takes, you'll have a company profile, and you'll have must reads and must know about the Canadian sector. So
can you give us like a sneak peek? Like who's the profile tomorrow?
I haven't decided yet. I've got a couple interesting ones I'm working on.
Amazing.
You have to read it to know. Like, why spoil the fun? It's a surprise. I like getting surprised.
No spoilers here. Next up, VERTU Capital networks its way into an investment in Dejero. Alex, what's the news here?
So Toronto-based PE firm VERTU purchased a minority stake in Dejero for $60 million in participation with a few Bay Street investors and the founders of the company. So basically, VERTU is a new private equity firm. They're buying an investment into a Waterloo-based company called Dejero.
Do we know anything about the people behind VERTU?
VERTU, this woman, the principal, she was at a few pension plans in Canada, has backed other private equity firms. So a long history on Bay Street. She had spun out 2 or 3 years ago to basically create the firm. And she'd done a couple SPVs, and this is the first one out of her first fund, the first investment out of her first fund.
So tell us what she's chosen here. What does Dejero do?
So Dejero is Waterloo-based, and they provide technology that enables customers to get highly dependable internet connectivity by blending connections provided by cellular, satellite, and broadband through its software and hardware. So basically, the way you think of it, it's taking all the different ways you can communicate to someone, combining them to basically give you dependable edge-based internet connectivity. So if you need to make sure you get that connectivity, Dejero helps you out.
Amazing. And so who are the kinds of clients that will take this kind of service?
So they have 400 clients. They're broadcasters, production companies, public safety, and government agencies. So I guess, if you're worried about safety, you want to make sure you have connectivity. If you're a broadcaster, the Super Bowl is a perfect example. The Super Bowl is a client.
Right. You don't want the Super Bowl to go down when you're broadcasting it. Awesome. And
Not
so
when you're
who's
charging
making
like
money?
3 million for 30 seconds of ads.
Hey, maybe we should throw one of those TechTO newsletter ads up on the Super Bowl. See if we can keep them up. So who's making money here, Alex, in this deal?
So previously, got a couple other private equity firms buy a minority stake, and it seems like they're selling out. It's one was a company called Kane Anderson, and others Capital Advisors, or sorry, it's called Kane Anderson Capital Advisors, and a satellite company called Intelsat, who are previous investors. Intelsat is interesting because they're probably use Intelsat satellites to deliver a service. They had they invested $32 million in the company in 2017. So you're looking at a 2 times return in about 3 years.
Are you happy with that? If you're one of the early investors there?
Well, if I'm Intelsat, like any corporate venture that investment that provides a return, it's always positive because I don't think they have the best return, best history in generally. And private equity firm, yeah, I guess it depending on what they thought when they invested, that's a nice return. It's probably 25% IRR. But yeah, so this deal is interesting because you've got basically another Waterloo investment happening. And it sort of provides the upside and downside of what's going on in Waterloo. You got something that basically relies on heavily technical abilities, but they're building applying to niche business. So look, I'd like to have a business that makes $25 to $50 million revenue a year, but it's not a venture capital business. I think this represents the challenges and the success of the Waterloo region. So let's get on to the next thing, which is basically this week you had Vista Equity invest $300 million in Vena. Vena is a Toronto-based company focused on the corporate performance management software space. So that basically means it helps companies run their companies better. They raised $300 million from Vista Equity Partners, valuing the company at almost $600 million USD. For people that don't know Vena, it's been a company around here for about a decade now. And they started off as almost black lines for Excel. So, hey, if you know how, when you do a Word document, you can cross stuff out and see changes. They added that functionality for Excel, and then they've added a bunch of other fully cloud-native corporate performance management tools. So what their goal is to help empower finance, operations, and business leaders to grow their business. Just some context here: they have 900 mid-market companies they target with revenue of under $2 billion. So they're targeting companies that are almost huge, household names, but a bit smaller. So they need extra software. They have 50 million revenue. They're trying to get to 200 million revenue by 2025. And they've raised $231 million in primaries plus 200 million secondaries. I'll get to that in a second. So basically this raise is interesting because 100 million is going to Vena, which is primaries, and 200 million is going to buy out the previous investors, private equity backers, GMI Equity, and Certana Growth. So this is interesting for a few reasons. One is when I saw the target of 2025, I'm like, wow, that's aggressive. They're going to go from 50 million to 200 million. But when I actually did the numbers, it shows it's growing at the same pace they're growing right now, 30% per year. So when you reflect on that, it shows you how important steady compounding growth is, because going from 50 million to 200 million is only 30% growth per year. And it also shows you how hard it's to be a venture cap backed company, because they're targeting a doubling of revenue every year. Second thing, this also represents what the perspective in Canada has always been. Vena focused on enterprise SaaS, which Canada supposedly has a strength in, and their initial sales team was based out of Atlanta, which is where Canada has a historic weakness in. And finally, this goes back to two trends we've seen quite a bit over the last little while. PE firm buying into a Canadian company and PE firm selling out of a Canadian company. So, Vena seems to be the perfect encapsulation of what Canada used to be, what Canada can be, and the current trends in the ecosystem. Finally, I'd like to finish with a couple quick funding announcements or funding rounds that can happen. One was a company called Heirlume. They raised $1.7 million from Mars, IEF, Backbone Angels, Future Capital, and Angels of Many. There's a couple things that are interesting about this. First, what they're trying to do is they're trying to use AI to power trademark searches and registration. So this is a usually expensive, time-intensive process that costs about $3,000. They're trying to get the cost down to $100. So there's a question here, and investors are betting that by shrinking the cost of a service, you'll create excess demand and expand the market. So you're looking at cutting a cost by like 90%. Can you grow the market by over tenfold and capture all? Second of all, which I love, is we feature angel groups or angels in our Friday newsletter. Two of the ones we've recently featured, Angels of Many and Backbone Angels, were investors here. The last thing I'd like to discuss is ReelData, which is a Halifax-based clean tech startup. ReelData basically uses AI to tell people growing fish farmers, how much they should feed them, when the fish are ready, when the fish are the right size to basically harvest, and basically run aquaculture farms much more efficiently. What's interesting here is, for a while now, Halifax has been trying to position itself as a leader in ocean technology, or an ocean technology hub globally. And ReelData is the first company I've heard of get financing for ocean technology. So it's good to see the visions becoming reality. And second thing, ReelData actually went through Real Ventures founder fuel. So it's good to see different parts of the Canadian ecosystem support each other in growth. Yeah, thank you for joining us for quick takes. If you have time tonight, we're doing pitch karaoke. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have 8 contestants, 8 never before seen pitch decks for completely wacky startups. What could go wrong? Come join us, hear how these people pitch, see how good they are. You can see here the finalists. Some of them you may know. Jesse Albiston, if you came to TechTO in person, was always around. It should be lots of fun. Join tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Finally, we're going to do TechTO together on May 17th, and it's going to reflect what's going on across Canada. We're going to be focusing on the prairies with 2 great speakers. One is ClearCo's co-founder Michelle, who you may have heard about last week, and others, Jordan Bosch from 7 Shifts. So please join us.